Thanks for checking out today's episode of The Experience Curve, where we explore the personal journeys of accomplished individuals, breaking down the steps they took to get where they are, which I hope just might inspire you on your own path forward. Today, I'm talking with Josh Polgardi of the soon-to-be-released business networking platform, Tripoli. He's challenging the norms of digital networking and carving out a new path for professionals seeking genuine in-person connections. From leading teams in the digital realm to founding this paradigm-shifting networking application, Josh brings a wealth of knowledge and a fresh perspective. Stay tuned for an engaging conversation about the shortcomings of digital networking, the birth of Tripoli, and how this platform looks to transform the landscape of professional connections. Hey, what's up, Josh? Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today on the show. I know we caught up a little bit before we got started and, connected online. And so I'm excited because your company sounds really cool to me. I'm really, it's just very intriguing to hear what you're saying. That's not something, a process of networking that people are unfamiliar with, but I feel like through the pandemic and other factors in life, people do revert back to sort of this digital networking, and your site, Tripoli, is about getting back in person in front of people, the old school way. So thanks for your time today.
Hey, thanks, Joe. It means a lot that you had me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and like your background, right? You kind of share with me. I found you on LinkedIn. You're in marketing, content, operations, so but you got your site now, Tripoli, and you made a jump from this corporate world to this startup. Like what was it in life that made you sort of say, you know what, I'm just going to take the jump and build this company?
Yeah, man. Well, I tell you what, Joe, you're married,
Yes,
right?
sir.
Yeah. I mean, thankfully, I'm also married, and thankfully, she's very supportive, and
Yeah.
and she's been listening to me go on and on about ideas for years, right? And so
Yeah.
you spend a certain amount of time inside the claustrophobic cubicles of corporate world. That's good alliteration there.
Right.
And you just sit there thinking, hey, one of these ideas, I'm going to have a calm Friday or a calm Saturday where I'm going to start chipping away at that. And it never really seems to work out that way. It was a unique aligning of the planets where I thought I'd finally found my dream job. I thought I'd found it. I left corporate and I joined a marketing agency, second in command, and I thought this is going to be great. My shirt's untucked, my beard's grown out. This is going to be awesome, and it really turned out to be a disaster. And I knew before too long that I'd be looking for an exit, and I definitely took my exit when I needed to. With that in mind, my wife really encouraged. She said, "Hey, we're thinking about having kids. If you're going to take a risk, you know, now's the time. We're not going to go bankrupt in the next 6 months if you quit your job. Let's just have a little faith in ourselves that we can pull off some of these things that you have your sights set on." So I just said, you know what? All right, let's do it.
That's
So I
that.
quit.
Yeah.
No, I just quit. I just said it's over. I'm done. This isn't the place for me anymore for a million good reasons, and I quit. And not to belabor the point too much, but I wasn't even sure that I wanted to start Tripoli when I quit. But here's what I did. I I sort of ran an informal experiment where I said, "Hey, I'm a free agent now. I have time. I have a certain skill set. Maybe people like it or need it. I'm just gonna give it away. I'm just gonna blast my LinkedIn audience and say, hey, from now to the end of the month, anybody can meet with me at these times." I shot out a Calendly link, and I think I had 10 slots, and I filled five of them, which, like, on the one hand, I thought, man, I thought I'd fill those slots, and then on the other hand, I thought, like, who do you think you are? Like, you're not famous. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I was pretty stoked about it, but it was in one of those meetings where I actually found my co-founder for Tripoli because he wanted advice from me about certain things that he's going through with his business. And I started bouncing ideas off of him, and it was this magical connection of two minds sort of, sharpening each other. And I told him my idea, and he told me his thoughts on it. And then he thought, well, I can do the technical side if you do the business owning side, and we'll get off to the races. Weirdly, that's what's so magical about what we're doing right now. It's just you and I bouncing ideas off each other and being a little bit aspirational, looking out into the future a little bit. So, long story short, I quit my job. I found a great co-founder. Turns out I mean I'd worked with him for years beforehand. It's just he reached out to me in a different way, a more personal way. That's why we decided to start Tripoli. Now, I feel like I've been talking a little bit, but I'm sure folks who are listening would want to know what Tripoli is.
Mhm.
So I'll just explain that really quick. And that is Tripoli, we believe that digital networking and networking in general isn't really what we think people have a fundamental misconception about what that is, and it leads them down the wrong path. And we're trying to fix that. I'm 20 years into my career, and I've done networking the hard way. And Joe, you could probably identify with this a little bit, which is you show up, you work hard, you try to be winsome, you try to be nice, you try to reach out to the right people, you do the right things, you show up on time, you tuck your shirt in, all that stuff. And at the end of 20 years, I was just kind of like, I mean, I know people, but do I have people I trust, but not nearly as many as I want. And I want this rich, vibrant community of sort of ride or dies in my life that are just like they can pick up the phone and call me, I can pick up the phone and call them. And I always had that, but not to the extent I want, but it took me 20 years. And then you've got the other side of that coin, which is, well, what if I just graduated last year? Like, are you telling me I've got to do all that stuff just to hopefully kind of have people I know and trust with experience in my network. Like it's tough. So Tripoli is really trying to help people blast past that acquaintance phase and that 20 years of building your network by just going, hey, you want to network? I want to network. Let's meet together and network. You're a podcasting guy. I'm on your podcast. Let's get together and talk about business. And the magic in that is doing it in person. This is fantastic what we're doing now. But imagine if you and I were in the same room sharing a beer.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, unfortunately, we're 2,000 miles or so apart, but it's that is the point, right? Getting in the room with someone is huge. And I'm assuming, like, were there things that like you and your partner had seen? Okay, we're identifying where I guess digital networking has or is fallen short of real networking. Like, did you sort of go down that path? And if so, like, what did you sort of find from the that kind of investigation?
yeah, I mean, three really big things popped out at us. I would say probably the most important one is we're confusing public relations and brand building with networking. And and the more I think about that, the more it rings true to me. Like, so for example, Joe, you could go to LinkedIn, X, Instagram, TikTok, anywhere else that you want to go to build your reputation and your network, right? You're an expert podcaster. You've got a tremendous voice. You're helping people hear perspectives about things that they need to hear perspectives on. I would expect you to go to those platforms and proclaim your message to the nations, right? Like you want as many people helped by the things you talk about as possible. But that's your reputation. That's your publicity, right? That's your public relations. I don't think that's your network. I don't think your reputation is your network. It'd be like imagine I left a market or like a trade show conference in Vegas and I had 1,800 names on a list with their email addresses and stuff.
Mhm.
Building your network on LinkedIn and calling it your network is like calling that list of emails your network. It's not.
Right? Yeah,
It's a marketing asset, right?
yeah.
There is no resemblance between that list and the people that you would actually pick up the phone and be like, hey, I'm actually having a hard time reaching this certain audience, and you've got more experience in this arena than I do. Like the list of people in that file have nothing to do with the list of people that you love and trust that know you personally. And I think a lot of people walk into the digital networking sphere hoping that they're going to build that there, but I don't think they are. So that was a very verbose way of saying I don't think public relations and networking are the same thing. We're getting them confused. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
Yeah, no, great analogy.
The other two reasons are I think, have you picked up on, Joe, the I call it at scale thinking. At scale thinking. There's this sort of thing in the zeitgeist where people go, "Hey, oh, you're building your business. How are you going to do that at scale? It, how are you gonna how are you gonna automate that, right?" And I think that mentality has sort of jumped over into networking where people go, "Hey, how are you going to build your network at scale?"
That's true. Yeah.
And it's like, well, you're not. You can't build your network at scale, right?
Yeah, of course not.
You can only, like, how many people in your life? It's like 50 people
Yeah.
that you could possibly have a close relationship with. So I think that there's an important distinction between building your reputation at scale and building your network, which can never really be at scale. So I don't know. I don't want to belabor that point too much, but I'll just go into our third reason, which is I think we're mixing up the starting line and the finish line. So technology has done so many great things for us, unbelievable, blows me away. It blows me away. But it's a terrible replacement for relationships. And I think that's what networking is. It's real personal relationships. So a lot of us will just, like, flip open our phones or the computer and hope that we're gonna find some good, you know, we're gonna do some networking today and we like some posts or whatever. But that's the starting line. You know what I mean? We
Sure.
should be using that to foster these in-person relationships that Tripoli is all about.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point because I've been in that world a lot where you're like, oh, let's build this list for a newsletter, or let's build it. But if you really did sit down and say, oh, I need to reach out to someone for advice or help or assistance in any way, most people on that list are be like, I know I'm on your newsletter, but I don't remember who you are. Or I don't, there's not going to be that, like you said, a personal connection that you're going to be able to say, okay, hey, I like you, you like me, we know each other's track record, I can vouch for you. Like, there's none of that when you're just building a list and trying to get people, lead capturing, so to speak.
Right. Right. It's two different things, and I think it's really easy for people to sort of get stuck in that rut because it's easy, especially since COVID. It's like we
Hmm.
all just sort of recessed into our office space at home, and we whip open our laptops and say, "I'm going to get some networking done today," and you make a post, and
Right.
it's like that's more like public relations than it is like building your network. Like it's a very important distinction.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think it was especially during the pandemic. I mean, what they call it, Zoom fatigue, or people just constantly in these meetings and not being interactive with each other. The just sort of that communication in the same room. It's impossible to replace now, and you hope it doesn't either, right? Because you see how technology is going, and certain platforms are trying to push things where you're like, oh man, are we going to be wearing things, people are going to be all these devices that we're connected to, and you just want to say like, oh gosh, let's just throw this stuff, put it down and just talk, that, which I agree, that's just not something people, I think, revert to, or they should be reverting to. But their first instinct is to like, hey, let's set up a Zoom, and let's do a 15-minute, and it's quick and it's fast paced and it's very informed, just on the screen, and you don't really get to know the person one on one.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. And this is probably good timing with the holidays having just passed, but you
Mhm.
think about, to the extent that you're able, if my mom lives across the street, I'm going to her house for Christmas. I'm not calling her or
Mhm.
FaceTiming
Yeah.
her, right?
Yeah.
So it really underlines the importance of the people I trust most in my life are the people that I have shared experiences with, and we've had time to build that in-person trust.
Mhm.
I can call my good friend Everett because I trust him and because he's experienced in business, and I can say, "Hey, I don't know how to handle this situation," because we've built that rapport. And maybe I've spent too much time knocking digital marketing, and maybe I should give a little bit more insight into what I think. networking actually is. I'm sure your smart listeners have figured it out. But it is that, I mean, it is that moment. Who do you pick up the phone and call when you need somebody? And by the way, who picks up the phone and calls you? You know, networking is way more about giving than it is taking. And if we all adopt that mindset, especially in a marriage, since we're both married, like the more you give, the better it is. So that's my definition of good networking.
Yeah, and on your site, you sort of refer to yourself as like the anti LinkedIn guy, and obviously, obviously we use these platforms, but the messaging is like, or what maybe you see LinkedIn as a platform and what you've gotten out of it. Are there aspects of that you feel have fallen short, and maybe where you and your partner came together and said, hey, like, okay, we get Tripoli, we get this together, we see what we get on LinkedIn, and we definitely see the value there. And people, they utilize that platform, and deals are made, and relationships happen. But this sort of, calling the BS on the digital networking, does like Tripoli, like, what's the approach of this platform to sort of counter maybe limitations that exist on LinkedIn and other digital networking platforms?
Yeah, sure. Well, the main problem that I see is really a question of expectations. So so yes, I do call BS on LinkedIn, and I can get into that in a second.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
but your average LinkedIn user is going to reflexively open it 12 times a day. They're going to go there hoping that investing in this platform is going to somehow fill this void in their life that looks like a solid business network. Like who are these important people in my life in the business world that I can help along and that can help me along, that can mentor me and that I can mentor. And those kinds of relationships that I think deep down we all really want more than more likes and DMs. I think that people go to LinkedIn specifically expecting that, and I don't think they're going to find that there. I
Mhm.
remember when I first started my marketing career, I was a freelancer. I talked to one of my first clients, and I was like, "Hey, what's a good number of followers to have on LinkedIn?" He's like, "Oh, probably 500 at least." And of course, we all know now. You look at LinkedIn, and you want to see 500 plus, and you go,
Connections, yeah.
"Okay,
Yeah.
right." But I'm well over 500 now, and it hasn't had any tangible impact on my life. So, but back to expectations. People go there expecting developer relationships, and some people try, and it gets weird, man. It gets really weird. If I didn't know you, but I admired your podcast, and I said, "Hey, man, can we get coffee or a beer sometime?" You'd be kind of like, "Who are you again?" Like, I know we're connected, but I don't even remember when that happened or why.
Sure.
Right?
No, yeah. That's I've gotten that myself, just reaching out to people like, hey, what's up? It's like, how do we know each other? And they're going back saying like, who are we also connected to? And it's, they're doing a lot of math in their head of like, how do I know this guy?
Oh, exactly. It weirds people out. You should search on X sometime. LinkedIn is weird, and
Oh,
and you just have all these posts about this guy named Jack like DM'd me. He wanted to know like what my sign was, and you're like,
yeah.
what do you what is this about? But so for example, if you were looking for a date next Friday night, like you wouldn't pop open Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn. Hopefully, we hope there's dating apps for that.
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
by the same token, if you're looking to build some community in your town, or if you're traveling abroad and you want to meet people for business or whatever the case may be, and you're not established yet, like, are you going to have any luck on LinkedIn? No, no, that's not what that platform's there for. So I wouldn't say we're trying to build the dating app of the career world, but what I am saying is we're trying to get motivated networkers on the same platform so everybody knows what the deal is. You know,
Mhm.
if you're on Tripoli, you're down to meet in person. It's not weird. We're just trying to get a better network faster than the 20 years I wasted trying to build mine, you
Mhm.
know?
Yeah.
So,
So are there like maybe you'd say, or would you say gaps in, today's business landscape, and like, is Tripoli sort of trying to redefine networking, or is it sort of, again, bringing back what we all have done in the, instinctively know is a better form to be in someone's face and have that one-on-one time, the interpersonal communication. What's sort of the messaging there with the actual plan of networking for Tripoli?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's almost like we're trying to redefine it by just giving it the same definition it always had.
Mhm.
You know, what we think about as networking today isn't really not to quote the famous Adam Carolla, not all progress is good.
Mhm.
You know, like if we're networking digitally, but we're still missing those close personal relationships that we all need in our lives, then what are we doing? You
Mhm.
know, so what Tripoli is trying to do is go, hey, what you're looking for, here's the platform. You know, if you see somebody on this platform that you admire, that you want to talk to, you know, just by virtue of them being there, they're open to that kind of meeting with you. And I think that those aligned expectations can really open up a world of possibilities, especially for young professionals who just graduated from college or high school. They're trying to get into design or whatever they're doing, and they're trying to figure out how to make their way. Well, we have people on the app that can help you find your way. You know, they're excited to meet people in person, and you can just meet with them, and it's not weird.
Yeah.
You know,
Shouldn't be.
it shouldn't be. So that's really the goal. We just want people to just blast through the acquaintance phase, you know, like and just get straight to knowing people. So
Right. Yeah, and you know, a lot of young people, I guess you could say, you know, kind of throwing like the devil's advocate, right? Like remote work, digital communication, people are kind of glued to their phones in that the young generation compared to, you know, boomers and Gen X and you know. But like, do you like what, I guess, why do you believe that there's still a strong desire for this in-person sort of these in-person business connections for people who might say, you know what, I'm happy to stare at a screen for 12 hours a day, right? Like, did you ever think of like the reverse, you know, again, the whole devil's advocate question?
yeah, no, it's a great question, and I think it exists sort of beneath the surface, and you can see it in the way technology is going, which is we've had, let's see, it's 2023, the iPhone came out, well, the iPhone 4 came out in like 2010 or something. And you see technology trying to mimic what we do every day, and it gets closer and closer, but it never really satisfies or fulfills that need to go hiking with somebody. Like I can't do that with you on my phone.
Yeah.
That need to shake your hand and just understand, you, you know, Joe. So for example, I've seen you on podcasts, and I go, he's a nice guy, he's a great guy, very considerate of his guests and a good communicator, and that's what I'm looking for in a podcast. And think how much more vibrant our friendship could and would be if we shared time in the trenches together, where I got to buy you a coffee and shake your hand, and we got to laugh about stuff that's going on in our lives, and then cry maybe about stuff that sucks right now. I mean,
Yeah.
it's technology is just will never be uh, not in the next 20 years. It'll never be able to fully replace what I think we're all looking for, which is shared time and built trust, and I think that's where the most powerful networking effects come into play. So that's my answer to that question. I appreciate you playing the devil's advocate. That's a great
No,
question.
no, for sure. No, it's funny because like my daughter even, she has a friend. I think her family has like a day where they just don't do any sort of electronics, you know. And of course, like a phone's gonna ring, or like, you know, the parents, if they're working, they have to answer or something. But it was for the kids, and I always really admired that, you know. And this is, you know, I know well, I guess we're in 2024 now, but even 5, 7 years ago, just kind of instilling, or, you know, people can set limits on their kids' phones or iPads if they even have them. I know a lot of people, like kids, they don't even have their own phone or their own iPad, and they're 13, 14 years old. So that to me, it's sad that that's more surprising to me than, oh, of course, every kid has, you know, 3 to 7 hours of screen time every day, and they're looking at videos and swiping the screens, and, you know, and you want to just say like, just get together in the playground and have fun, or, you know, like the people that, you know, work remotely, even, you know, how much are they missing out on not being around their colleague. Because I feel like the production, the sort of the camaraderie, all that stuff is formed in person. It's not formed on Zoom. Not, I'm not knocking Zoom as a platform, but just those technologies. That's not where you're building that sort of team. You know, just the whole vibe of your company is not built digitally, in my opinion.
I agree with that. And you can tell because we keep trying, you know, like corporate team building events via Microsoft Teams or Zoom or whatever platform
Exactly.
they're using. It's like we're going to do a coloring contest for Christmas or whatever the case may be, and
Yeah.
you see 14 faces like the Brady Bunch on your
Yep.
screen, all trying to have the organic experience that you would have if you were occupying the same conference room table, for example, or somebody at your boss's house, whatever. You see people trying to do that, but it never really, you know, I'm not knocking it. I'm definitely not knocking it. But if you have an opportunity to bypass digital and go ahead and meet with Joe Steele in person, I want to meet with Joe Steele in person.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, I find it hard, like if someone, like you said, holiday party or something, like it's very rare that someone had a holiday Zoom party with their company and then actually had that one, like you said, at the boss's house or at a, you know, a hall or something like that, that didn't walk away from the in-person one saying, wow, that was just a great time. The memories are always going to last. But how much are you going to reflect on a Zoom party or Zoom, you know what I mean? Some kind of event that you, that's why it's like, who knows, with even like the metaverse and people, you know, they're doing concerts and they're, you know, buying digital real estate and things that, do you really get the same, you know, feeling you get that going to a virtual concert than you do live in, you know, when you see the band, you're hearing the you know, the drums and all that, that, you know, it's just, to me, it's just a whole different world that you're not going to be able to replicate on a computer.
yeah, it's tough, and it is getting so good. I mean, you look at the Sphere in Las Vegas,
Mm,
and you see videos of that, and you're like, "Whoa, man, this is
it's
crazy."
wild. Yeah.
And it's all so good, and I'm in awe of it. And but at the same time, I think of the most important people in my life, and I go, how did I make, how did I get to know this guy? It- so for example, pre-pandemic, we're all working from the office, and I go to a going away party for a colleague. And there's this dude at the party who just decided I was a nice guy. And I don't know why. I think I'm kind of nice.
You're a
I don't
nice
know.
guy. Yeah.
But thank you. So before I'd gotten back to my desk, he'd shot me a Slack or an IM or whatever it was. And he said, "Hey man, enjoyed meeting you today. Let's go grab a beer sometime." And I said, "Done and done. Let's go do that." And and now he's one of my closest friends. And those opportunities for serendipity where you bump into somebody who's going to the office kitchen at the same time as you, and they like tofu and you like tofu, and now you've got a friend.
Yeah.
Like that, we don't really have a lot of that these days, and I think a lot of people have suffered from that going home, and I don't need to go too deep into that. I think we've all experienced the pros and cons of remote work, but I think that's really what we're missing is those of us who had good networks before the pandemic were okay because we could maintain them digitally
Sure.
for a little while, and now we're back to normal. But those of us who really relied on our work community in the on your floor at your office, they really lost something when that happened and really didn't know how to deal with it. So all that to say is not to toot Tripoli's horn, too much,
No.
but before we go too digital, it's like, hey, you can still meet with people in person who also want to meet you too, and who knows what can happen. You might find your next, colleague or partner or friend out of the deal. So
Yeah, I mean, you're right. Having that, like, you know, on, you know, maybe it's like you said, you walk into a lunchroom or something with someone that you had no idea. You start bonding over things that are very familiar to you, and they form bonds because of that. That you're like, okay, commonality that you have with people that just kind of transcends from there, and who knows where things go. But it makes the working experience also more pleasurable because now you're like, okay, I share common bonds with these people, and they're different things. They could be sports, they could be food, they could whatever it might be, but they sort of become like family, and it's very hard to form that over the internet. You know what I mean? But I guess my question though, how about like we all know we've all been on LinkedIn, we've all been on digital platforms, depending on what they are. But for Tripoli specifically, what's the user experience going to be like when someone signs in, they join? I know you have a wait list going now. What's that experience going to be like, and how would that be kind of set apart from different networking platforms that already are out there?
Sure. Well, first of all, it's really slick. I'm really proud of it.
Yeah.
I wish I haven't coded any of it myself, but my co-founder's done a fantastic job. And in the experience is, we think it revolves all around the map. So picture this. You pop open, well, shoot, I'm going to do that thing that's very not cool, but I'm going to do it anyways. You pop open Airbnb on your phone and you go, I want to go to, Indianapolis. And you start looking for places you can rent in Indianapolis. And you can filter based on what you're looking for and all that stuff. Well, this is very similar to that in that if you live in LA and I live in Chattanooga, Tennessee, as a user, I can pop open my phone at any time and I can see a map of people in my town who are open to
Mm.
meeting in person. And I'm actually kind of getting I don't want to toot my own horn here, but like it kind of gives me the chills to think about it. If I'd have had this when I was 23, like
Yeah. Right.
it would have absolutely blown my mind. So you've got people who are looking to meet, and then you've got hosts that that just have time slots available. Say, hey, I'll be at Starbucks every Tuesday at 5 p.m. for anybody who wants to learn more about X. It could be design, accounting, whatever you want. I don't really whatever you want. What you can do as somebody who's looking to meet people is say, hey, yeah, I'll take that next Tuesday slot with you, Joe. And I would just love to learn more about what you do, learn more about how I could help. I mean, I listen to your podcast now because I'm a fan, and how can I support you? And maybe in turn you would say, hey, how can I support you? And all of a sudden we're off to the races in this kind of new relationship that we wouldn't have had otherwise. So that is the experience that we see and that we're excited to launch. And we want to expand this too to the business world. So not only Joe, you as an individual, but say you worked for a conglomerate or something. What we also want is businesses who are really involved in their community, really involved in developing talent, community outreach, trainings, that sort of stuff. We really want them to advertise and promote those kind of events for their business. So, for example, I have a very dear friend who is a counselor. He owns a couple offices in town, and fantastic guy, and his heart's really in it. And he has seen a deficiency in the training realm for how other counselors do their continuing education credits. It's just like any other business where you have to do CEs. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go sit through. I'm gonna listen to this dude talk about nothing. I'm gonna sign my name. They're gonna give me 4 hours of CE credits, and then
Yeah.
I'm going to go. And he goes, no, this is an opportunity for you to get better at what you do. And he's on a mission to be relevant and actually train people on how to be better counselors. And he goes, man, the minute Tripoli goes live, I'm going to start posting events on there. And because I'm going to do this X amount of times a year, this is going to be the curriculum. They're going to sign up, and who knows what can happen. So I don't even know if I fully answered your
No,
question, but
totally. I mean, when you paint the picture of like Airbnb, obviously most people or Verbo or whatever, they kind of get the idea of like what that viewer or the perspective of checking out the platform would be. And I think that's pretty like cool because like you said, if you were 21 again and coming out of college, I mean, you could roll this around like, hey, I'm already in town for this, and then this guy lives here and he's doing this, and and you're just being able to connect. But the fact that they do it in person, it just brings it to like a whole different level. You know what I mean? So it's easy to just shoot someone a canned message on a platform that you send everyone, and hopefully one person responds, and you can sort of get business from them, I guess is the goal for a lot of these platforms. But getting that relationship going, I think, is where that would totally set this apart from what else we have out there. So like your friend, the counselor, I mean, I agree. Like that's something people, when this launches, be like, oh my God, why would I not utilize this platform for these same ideas? And like you said, his CE credits. That's it's funny too, because I have friends that do that specific thing where it's like they're it's going through the motions, just give me the credits and whatever I got to do, but they're not really there to learn. They're just there to just do what they have to do. So it's cool. It sounds like a very cool plan. Now, will it be mobile and desktop?
It will be mobile first, and
Okay.
then it will also have a desktop version. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, because we have discussed obviously travel to a degree, but getting in with people, but physically traveling, getting on a plane. You have a tagline. It's start making real connections in your town or abroad, right? So you also say taking advantage of tax benefits to travel, and you're doing this to network. But for someone that like is doesn't know or has never really thought of that, like could you explain like how someone listening could leverage that travel for to build their own business?
Oh yeah, 100%. This kind of goes back to the origin story of Tripoli. Like every year I would do my taxes as a self-employed guy, and I go, golly, I should have taken a couple trips. You know, I should have visited a client here or done XYZ over there, or a trade show over here, and that would have been a benefit to me. And I always think, just next year. And so I sort of suspected that there was this whole demo of people, even beyond digital nomads who spend their time working abroad. I thought there was this demo that really wanted to live the entrepreneurial lifestyle the way they envisioned it when they started. And and that was, yeah, I'd like to go see a contact in Orlando or San Francisco or whatever. But I don't know anybody in Orlando or San
Yeah,
Francisco,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I don't want to pay $7,000 for the next trade show thing just so I can maybe meet someone. So I thought, well, hey, if you have this list of people on a map in any town in the US that you could go visit for a business trip, why not make it a tax deductible business trip? I go network in San Francisco. Like you can do that. It's the IRS allows this. Like
Mhm.
we could do it and we could deduct it from our taxes, so why not do it? So that was kind of the origin story of Tripoli and hence the name. It looks like Trip
Yeah, trip.
Ally.
Yep. Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah, no, I just caught that. That's awesome. Okay.
so between me and you and the podcast listeners, we've really wrestled with what's the number one benefit of the platform. So we think that it's both. Like we think that people who are in the entrepreneurial solopreneur demo, digital nomads, we we know that they can use the platform to travel and have more opportunities and expand their network into other geographies. But then we realized that, especially after some feedback, that what people are really craving is this in-person thing. Like they really want to just go, hey, introduce me to your friend Paige. I would love to meet her, at XYZ coffee shop and talk about XYZ, you know. So that's sort of the messaging that we're leading with, but we still really want people who are business travelers. They want to get out there. They want to go to Seattle. We want to make some connections in Seattle. We want them to find those connections on Tripoli, and then give them a really easy and convenient way to track their expenses, in their travel diary and take notes on who they met, when, and where, and why, and so the IRS is happy and all that stuff. So that's a big part of it. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
No, totally. Yeah, no, and I did see like on the site there's like a version 2.0 you talk about where like sort of the platform's capabilities become expanded to a degree, right? So a way to like I said, empowering consultants, service providers to also like accept payments in through the site. Like how could you break down how that might work or how that will work?
Yeah, absolutely. It is so. We're really excited about the second version, 2.0, because we think that. there's this whole consultant class, this teaching class of people who they have skills that they want to share beyond networking, and they want to be easily found by people who want to benefit from that skill, from that advice, from that consulting. And and we think that at a certain point, those people can advertise themselves as available at a certain hourly rate on the platform. So for example, you're a music guy. If you wanted to start giving guitar lessons and you wanted to start showing yourself as, hey, I'm available to network for free, but if you want to get guitar lessons, it's $50 an hour or
Mm.
whatever, and we can meet at the studio and what whatever. We want to empower people to do that because I just look back at so many years where I thought I'd really love to know a lawyer right now, and I'd pay $80 just to talk to him for 30 minutes, just to
Sure.
say, hey, I don't even know if I'm thinking about this right, and get some feedback. And I think that there's a lot of opportunity for that. And a lot of people who want to moonlight outside their current job, you know,
Side
if
hustle
they
kind
know
of
a little
thing.
some, yeah, just get on the platform, list yourself as the best graphic designer in town and start consulting people on design stuff, you know.
Yeah,
So that's our goal.
that's awesome because I think that's because again, like going back to, and again, not knocking on platforms, but you do sometimes see people on there, and you're like, well, you say you do this, or you say you can do that as well, but like, how do I know that you're actually good at it? Well, your friend gave you a recommendation. Okay, that's great, but now you can actually sit down with someone and be like, okay, let's see, like, show me how to play the guitar, show me how to cook this, or tax advice, whatever it might be, that you can sit down with that person. Again, the whole in person, bringing it back to that, which is going to further put that relationship and make it more of a memorable one than just saying like, hey, let's do a virtual guitar lesson from your room and my room, and there's a delay, or and it's like, what are we doing here, so having that in there would be awesome.
Right, absolutely. And part of the thing I struggle with is I can't even imagine how certain people are going to use it. I can't, I can't. Is it going to be how realtors build their network? I hope so. Is it, is it going to be how business coaches and counselors build their network and start building opportunities to help people? I don't know. I, it's really like the world's your oyster when you meet people in person using Tripoli. Like you can, and if you're good enough and people are willing to pay you $30 for your advice on top of it, why the heck not?
Yeah, yeah, just like it sounds like it's like a platform that's just, providing so much more than just, hey, this is my contact info if I accept you, this and that. It's just like, hey, let's just get out there with each other and network. But like beyond that, right? So what would you say in terms of mentorship, learning, business opportunities, that are there other ways that people could leverage this platform, that maybe someone listening's like, okay, I get we're going to be there in person and we're going to do this, but are there anything else that you could think of besides the sort of features you outlined that maybe you guys are sort of talking about behind the scenes, for the future, that could be, maybe like an unexpected or creative, feature for the site?
Yeah, sure. It's like I said, it's tough to know for sure where the brilliant minds of America are going to thrive on the platform. Because you can you can you can meet people for just about any reason, and you can sell just about anything if anybody wants it, you know. So you think about all the people in your life that, from the senior vice president of accounting at a company, you know, to to dog walkers and to people who give piano lessons. Like they will have a reason to get on the platform and say, "Hey, this is who I am and this is what I do, and I'd love to talk about it from a networking perspective." And then if it can be monetized, meet with me and let's do that piano lesson. That's from an individual perspective. But from a business perspective, I've spent a lot of time thinking about the problems that businesses have, whether it's networking or it's we're trying to develop our next generation of talent. You know, we want to start promoting events at our place of business to where we can start getting the next generation of talent in who are we're doing a design symposium at our marketing agency. We want the best designers in town or the newest grads from town to come in. We're going to do a design workshop. It's free. You know, golly, the possibilities are endless. It really is.
Yeah.
And we can't wait to see how people use it.
Well, yeah, a lot of it, like you said, could take a life of its own once it gets rolling, and you don't know, it might get more popular with this sort of sector, and then this other one catches on from there, and it kind of builds and builds and builds. Is there like opportunities for people abroad to use this platform, or is it more U.S. based for now?
For now, it is US based. We've tinkered around with the idea of opening it up to certain other networks or markets because everything's sort of the world's getting a lot smaller. It's a lot
Hmm.
easier to get to Paris these days,
Sure. Yeah.
Um, so we're still tinkering with that. We want the US to be the first market, just because that helps us scale.
Yeah. You
You
know it.
know,
Yeah.
yeah. So once we go through the beta testing and we hammer out some of the details maybe we haven't thought of, we're hoping to launch in the US and then expand that to other places.
That's cool. So, like, when you're built, I mean, it's really cool to talk to someone that's actually building a network. And I've talked to friends in the past and guests in the past that have built networks, but they were networks that were already built and they're either sold or they're not part of. But you're like sort of literally like on the verge of this here. What, like, could you talk about maybe both challenging and rewarding aspects that you've sort of seen so far in building Tripoli?
Yeah, of course. The for anybody who looks at anybody who's ever started something and like Zuckerberg or whatever, I'm not on that level or even close. But anybody you look
Not
at and go,
yet.
oh, they just got lucky. Not yet. It's really easy to think that people fall into success, and I have never seen any person fall into success. Anybody who builds something, it could be a tree house or it could be cooking. It shines a light on all of your inadequacies and your strengths.
Yeah.
and, and you get to know yourself pretty quickly. I think that's why all these Silicon Valley types are all gurus, is because they all just like end up knowing their strengths and weaknesses and how to navigate that. But I, that has been the challenge is just to look in the mirror and just admit, hey, you're not as good at this part of this as you thought you were, and understand that you need help, and I got to call up my network for it.
Hmm.
So that's very challenging, man. I don't know if you've experienced that building your podcast. You haven't shown it because you're very professional,
No,
but I'm
no.
sure there's been some trials.
I think for me, the challenges really were a lot of audio video, audio based. I know a decent amount of music, production stuff, and friends that are in that world, and friends that I have a really good friend that's a huge audio engineer in town. He actually joined me on the podcast, like, a few episodes ago, Jeremy. So people like leaning on people like that. But again, I was connected to him through a friend, so we built a relationship in person. It wasn't a hey, I found you on, Instagram or something. That was just a guy, and he's been a friend for over a decade, right? That those were my challenges, I think, and then figuring out show content, like what's the theme, and I just went with, sort of experience for people who can learn, like what do you do? Like, oh my God, you're building a network. Like, how do you do that? Like, what does that mean? Like, are you, you know, to walk me through that? And that's sort of what I find is that interesting to talk to people about, because I'm personally interested in hearing about it. So hopefully listeners want to hear that as well. But for me personally, it's probably selfish, but I truly enjoy hearing these stories. So I think that's where, maybe not a challenge, but it's also a rewarding aspect because I get to learn from people like yourself in just hearing and then meeting a cool guy, right? You're like, oh, no, no, now we can, see how we can help each other in the future and things like that. But it's all of the above for me, but challenging, definitely, like the production element, I think, in putting that together or putting this together.
I can only imagine, man. I mean, it's the AV stuff. Even, even if you have a background in music and you have an understanding of this stuff, when you apply it in a new area and you don't know what you don't know, it's just like, oh boy.
Yeah, and technology changes so fast, and like this mic you thought was good 4 years ago is like, okay, there's a much better version of this and that, and you're soundproofing and blah blah blah. But as long as you're having fun doing it, and you're motivated, and people are responding to it, and again, for me, it's learning from people like you and others.
Yeah, 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 yeah. You know what? And as far as the rewarding part, I think a lot of people expect to cruise through something and have it be rewarding, and it's not. It is the struggle that makes it rewarding. It's the it's the feedback you get where you go, hey, I may have been kind of barking up the wrong tree in this department, but I got some good feedback, and I saw somebody's eyes light up when I said this. Where you, for example, I showed somebody a picture of the home map screen. I said, hey, this is what it's going to look like, and she was just like, oh yeah, that's what I want. And I went, perfect, we nailed it. We nailed it. That's awesome. And but it took us a heck of a long time to get there. You know, like why does it look like this? And why is the user experience this way? And why is this the most important part of their experience? Took a long time to get to, but the reward was, hey, here's what it looks like.
Hmm.
And somebody just goes, ding, ding, ding. I can meet these 12 people next week if I want. Yeah, you can. You can actually do that. So that's been on the rewarding side. But man, dang it if it wasn't for the struggle to get there.
Yeah. Yeah, so the reward is almost like the reaction, or how when you start to see like, okay, this is actually helping people grow their brand, their business, their career, whatever they're doing. Like the rewarding aspect will be, just seeing that in real time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, can you imagine, back at the beginning of what we were talking about, when I quit my job and I opened up my time slots, hey, anybody who wants to talk to me can talk to me. I started two businesses because of those conversations. One of them's a side hustle, but
Sure.
but
Yeah.
Tripoli's my focus. But
Yeah.
all because we just had conversations and we ended up finding a partner in business, and it's two of them. It's crazy, and there's so much unlimited magic about what can happen when you open yourself to those possibilities. When you're in the same room with somebody, you shake their hand, you go, am I going to get a friend, a colleague, a partner, a referral? Like what's going to happen in this scenario? And by the way, what am I going to provide for them? And you're absolutely right. That is the payoff right there.
Yeah, you just never know when you're talking with people where it's going to lead. But typically when you're in person with someone, at the very least, you probably know someone else that you can refer them to and connect them with someone else, even if it has nothing to do with you. And that's just as rewarding sometimes because you're like, wow, I connected this lady with her next business partner, and they're crushing it right now. And who knows if I never met the other lady? Well, whatever, right? So just being able to again bringing it back to all the being in person with people, getting to know them, getting to know their, who they are, and just having that bond that you just can't get sitting on a laptop. And for most people it's much harder. And I think what you're doing is really cool. It's very exciting, and I think that people listening, you said that Waitlist is that Tripoli.io.
Yes, at Tripoli.io, folks can go just punch in your email address, get on the wait list, and you'll also have an opportunity in that welcome email we send you. Check your spam. You will be able to join the beta testing cohort. We really want a strong beta testing cohort, which, by the way, we will be giving something very special to those people that I can't talk about yet.
Oh, cool.
But yes,
That's
in the
awesome.
way
Well,
that they use Tripoli, they'll be a little bit ahead of everybody else. So we want people on that beta list as well.
and besides Tripoli.io, where else can people follow or connect with you? Do you have are you on any platforms that you want to? I'll put them in the show notes, of course.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I know I spent a little bit of time being very specific about where LinkedIn is good and not good, but I think overall LinkedIn is good, depending on how you use it.
Yeah,
So
of
that
course.
said,
Huh.
you can find me on LinkedIn at Josh Polgardi Writes. You can find Tripoli at LinkedIn. It is at Tripoli.io. And anything you want to find about us, you can find at Tripoli.io.
Cool. Yeah, man. Well, listen, this was awesome. I enjoy you getting to know you. I mean, we talk. I said, a good amount of time offline. Getting to know one another. So I'm glad we connected. I'm joining the wait list today. Hopefully, people listening understand like you're building something very cool here. So I'm truly excited to see where this goes, and I would love to be part of the beta test and would help in any way I can. And again, like thank you for your time. And I think this is a great talk, and I learned a lot. And hopefully, people learn a lot. I'm really excited to see where this Tripoli.io and where Tripoli goes from here.
Awesome, Joe. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure and an honor. By the way, I'm not only a guest on the show, I'm a fan. I've been listening, so keep up the good work. I think the stories that you bring to light here are really inspirational to people who are trying to do stuff and try stuff and don't know what they don't know. And I think you bring a lot of that to light, and I think it's fantastic.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that for your support, and we will support each other in the future. You have a good rest of your day, and then Tripoli.io. And thanks again for your time today, Josh.
Thank you, Joe. Come see me in Chattanooga sometime.
You got it, man.
All right. Bye.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to this episode of Experience Curve. Please take the time to share this podcast with a friend or colleague to help get the word out about my show.